Good afternoon. I'm Steve Schimpf. I'm chairman of the Independent Sales Surtax Oversight Committee, and I'm glad that there's an acronym for it. We refer to it as the ISOC. That makes it a lot simpler. We do have a PowerPoint presentation for you today, and I'll walk you through that and then encourage you to ask questions about our activities. Basically what we're going to do is walk you very briefly through an overview, and some of you have heard this before, of the composition and function of our committee. Share with you the results to date of the sales tax that have come in. Most of that are numerical, but it'll give you an idea of how much of an impact in an overview basis it's made on the committee. We'll talk about compliance and with the referendum and the results of our committee's efforts. The district level communications to the public that have happened with regard to the sales tax. Communication that is really a bit new, targeted at schools in a very specific way as to the impact of the sales tax, and then some efforts on behalf of committee members to get out in the community and try to express to the community what's been going on. And after that, I'll be glad to open it up for questions, and hopefully I can provide you answers. And if not, I'm going to refer to Susan Millay, who surely will know. The Independent Sales Surtax Oversight Committee was formed as a result of the passage of the referendum about 5 or 6 years ago, which levies a sales tax in Lee County for 4 purposes. Our committee members are pretty broad in terms of their expertise. Some of us have construction backgrounds. We have some accounting backgrounds. We have people in real estate. We have people that have served in government, and we have past employees of the district that are really quite valuable because they have an insight as to how the district functions. Our committee is comprised of 15 members and 2 alternates. Our alternates do not have voting rights unless they become one of the 15 members. Each of you selects a couple of members for our board, and you're familiar with that. We have staggered terms ranging from 2 to 4 years. Those 2-year terms are now a thing of the past as long as one wants to continue. They were a function of when we got started of our initial group. Some of us served a 2-year term and then could be rechosen or agree to serve for another 4. We all have to be residents of Lee County. And we do have to serve with no compensation, and that's fine with all of us. None of us have asked for any pay. I really thought that was kind of comical in a number of years I've been there, and we decided that if we did that, you'd probably tell us that we weren't worth more than $1, and we don't want to hear that. So there are 4 authorized spending categories that the ISOC deals with, and they are the key to the functions that we perform. The money is intended to be spent in accordance with what was passed by the voters on construction, on safety, on maintenance, capital maintenance, and on technology. And our function as a committee reporting to the public is to ensure the public as best we can that in fact those 4 areas are where the funds are being spent. It goes without saying that an exclusion area is for operations. We are not allowed to expend sales tax money for things like salaries in the district, that sort of thing. Switching to the results so far, we have, the district has received $507 million so far as a result of the sales tax, a considerable sum. We've only expended $352 million of that, but that is somewhat of a deceiving number in that the commitments that have been made on construction projects get funded over a period of time, so a considerably higher amount of that number has been committed to projects, so that the 352 can be easily misinterpreted if you don't understand that capital projects are expended over a period of time. We've seated 4,767 students in new seats in the district, new schools. We have 8 new schools that have been built with sales tax money. We have 7 schools that have been undergone substantial renovation and major renovations that are in progress. We have safety systems in place in all schools. You all must be familiar now with the walk-through standards that we walk through the weapons detection system. That's in addition to numerous things that have to do with the flow of people in and out of our physical facilities, traffic patterns, security in terms of cameras, and various steps that can be taken in the event of an emergency, as well as communication with first responders at both the school and the district level. We've placed 22,000 Chromebooks in elementary schools and 73,000 Chromebooks for this, what we call the Student Refresh Program. Every student in Lee County has access to a school district, to a Chromebook. And I think, tell me if I'm wrong, Susan, we are in the top 1% of the country in terms of the number of students that have access to using a Chromebook. That's an exceptional pool in today. And Ken, when you talk about AI coming in, you know, that's in preparation of those students as well. 100% of our schools have received improvements as a result of the surtax. In terms of our report and our findings as a committee, I would encourage you to read the minutes when they come out from our meetings. There are questions asked by our committee members. Does this necessarily fall within the tax portion, you know, what was intended? There are questions that are asked about specific projects and answered, so it's not that we put your staff through a grilling, but I'm sure that they understand that there may very well be questions from their reports. As a result of those inquiries and the quality of the reports that we have from staff, in each meeting we've been able to pass a motion that in fact we approve the financial report that's been placed in front of us, and we approve the projects report that is offered to us to ensure that the projects that are funded are within the district's responsibility. Next, I'll go to communication. Your website is not new communication. The district website with regard to the sales tax has been in place for about 5 years now. You should go to it regularly. As you know, all are familiar, I'm sure. There are multiple tabs that you can click on and take a look at what's happening. An individual school can be looked at. That's important to the public, that they can look at their school. Your media department works heavily in press releases on our projects funded by the ISOC or by the sales tax, and social media has been used regularly. Somewhat new has been in the past year, the district has gone to reporting at the school level those specific projects that have been funded by sales tax. And on this side, on the right-hand side, you'll see that's an insert in an athletic bulletin that explains that on that particular campus, the Lehigh Senior High School, $9,503,892 has been spent on improvements that have been funded by the sales tax. That is generally an effort to thank the public for passing the referendum. And last and maybe least of all the communications, our committee felt that as citizen members, that we ought to step outside as individual citizens, not internal to the district, and speak to what's happening as a result of the sales tax. We prepared a PowerPoint presentation that overviews it, gives some specific results. A fair amount of work went from your staff, and that's because we're probably a little more demanding in terms of, would you modify this, would you modify that? And when we got it to the point where our committee approved it to take it to the public, we have presented that to a number of locations. I think we started at the foundation of Lee County Public Schools, but we've hit the Rotary Clubs of the Cape, Estero, Fort Myers, North Fort Myers. We have presented to the National Panhellenic Council. We've been to the Horizon Council, the Estero Chamber leadership class as well. It's really been very interesting to be the presenter in those. We reach some, we do encounter some people who would be against the tax in any event, no matter what it was for, and they speak up, and that's all well and good. But generally speaking, I can report to you that the public reception of those presentations has been positive. And I think it's positive because there are private enterprise people making those presentations. They're a product collectively of the district and our committee. But for me as a taxpayer, I would like to hear another taxpayer say that can't possibly get some benefit out of it, you know, gee, this is going pretty well and you ought to be happy about it. I put some stock in that, and a number of our audiences have done that. We have more presentations scheduled. We'll be at Rotary South on April 29th, and then we're working on setting up the Hispanic Chamber and various Kiwanis clubs. If you as a board member have not attended one of those presentations, I would encourage you, as those dates are set, you know, come join us. We'll low-key you or introduce you right up front, whatever your fancy is. We can let you hide in the back of the room or sit at the front table. But those presentations, for you to hear them and see the public reaction, may be of interest to you. With that, I'd be glad to field questions.
Board members or superintendent, do we have any questions? Yes, Mr. Persons.
I was just wondering, because I can't remember, I'm getting old, what percent of the sales tax is from non-residents or tourists or whatever we want?
It's in our presentation. I'd have to refer to it, but I think that's a 20% number, if I'm remembering correctly.
All right, thank you.
It's significant.
Right.
Ms. Morgan.
Yeah, I just want to compliment Mr. Schimpf. He has been the chair for the last 3 years at least, and he's the one who's really pushed the committee to put together this presentation that goes out to the community, peers speaking to peers in the community about what the sales tax is doing. And that's really important because you all know, those of you who will be on the board after this year, that there has to be a conversation about what happens going forward. And the extent to which the community is familiar with what has taken place thus far will be, I think, critical in terms of our ability to go out and have that conversation again, if that is what this board chooses. So I want to thank you for your work, and I want to thank you for pushing the committee, and I want to thank Ms. Millay and her group, because I know that you two work together to put these presentations on, and they're great.
I have to correct you in something. It's only been 2 years that I've been chairman. I would tell you that when I rolled out the idea, there was no question, no hesitancy on the part of the committee to do it. This was embraced. And your staff has really given us good support. You know, the quality of the presentation that we give, they update numbers every time to make sure we're current. And you've got some pretty good folks in your presentation and media department that have assisted us. There's always a technical person there in case our laptop blows up to help us or we can't click our clicker, and you know, that's kind of neat too. But they've done a great job supporting the speakers. That makes our job easier. So,
Thank you. Ms. Patrica.
Yeah, I think I say it every time you come in front of us. It's you and others on the committee bring automatic credibility to the position. I'm very grateful, not just for your service on ISOC, but taking it a step further and going out into the community. I know that there are people out there who are no tax no matter what. I was one of them until the facts of the half-penny sales tax were placed in front of me. But if I continued to be one of them, I would have a hard time arguing with you and with others on the committee because of your track record of success in business and the fact that you're considered a leader in this community. So the fact that you're willing to go out and talk about this, and it can be difficult. I know I did a lot of it before it was passed. It can be difficult. You can be met with some pretty angry pushback. I'm very, very grateful that you're willing to do this for our kids and for our staff. So thank you.
it's been interesting as those people have spoken up that they really didn't, you know, they saw it as an unnecessary tax. There were another 3 or 4 in the room said, you know, based to them basically at the Rotary Club level, they all joke anyway. You know, nah, you're missing the point. And those conversations have been there's very few people that it's not really been well received. As for you, Chris, if you take a position against it next time around, we'll still forgive you. You know, but we'll tell you you're wrong. That's all.
Dr. Savage.
Yes, I just want to thank you so much for your service, and really on behalf of the rest of the committee, I think I just want to highlight a couple things. One, the independent nature of it. It's very important that folks understand that this is independent, that this is not district advocacy. Our role as a district administration side is really just to provide facts. That is all we can do, and that is all we should do. This is not our sales tax. This is the community. This is the voters. The voters are the ones who put this, and so our obligation is to provide information to the voters on what the impact of this is in the organization so that they can make the informed decision. And that's essentially why we contribute and help in that way, is strictly to provide information that we are expected and obligated to do. And so I just really want to thank you for always kind of walking that fine line of presenting, keeping all of us as a governance team informed, for your advocacy that you constantly want to get more information for folks to be able to know, just so it's informed. But just thank you so much for everything you've done.
It doesn't take that much time, Ken. I'm an old retired guy. I've got time to do some of this stuff.
Ms. Jordan.
Thank you. Just real quick, again, I want to thank you as well. And I do believe that when people do see this, it makes sense, because they're actually seeing the fruits of labor. They're seeing what's taking place with their money. And then also I wanted to thank you because you had made mention about the questions that are asked. On the minutes, it does show that there are questions, and it's even written down what the questions are. So it's not that you're having these meetings and people are not asking the questions. Those questions are being asked and answered. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
I appreciate it.
Ms. Patrico.
This is not for you, Mr. Shimp, if I may, to the superintendent through the chair. It's been a while since we've had any kind of data presented to us regarding Chromebooks. That used to be a pretty regular occurrence when I first got on the board, and I know some members of the public have pushed back and said, well, why are we replacing them as frequently as we are? And I know that there are answers, but they're not at the tip of my tongue because it's been so long since it was presented to us. So I don't know what the board's pleasure is, but if we could just have a brief presentation on technology, where we stand, that would be super helpful. Thank you.
I think that's a great idea, Ms. Patrico.
I would add, with regard to the Chromebooks, that's been that's been a big part. It's not a huge expense in terms of building a whole building, but a lot of the public doesn't even know what a Chromebook is. And that would be worth communicating more clearly how much out in front we are as a district. That would be worth doing, because it's significant and it's a gold star you can hang up.
Thank you. Yeah, when I sat in and listened to the last meeting, that was a big topic, quite frankly. So, but thank you so much for serving our community in this capacity.
You're welcome.